Hello and welcome to Not Matanori. Now, a friend of ours, Chrissy, she asked me to do a video of how I make cider. Now, this is how I make cider, so any resemblance to traditional methods or commercial methods of cider making, if there's any correlation there, that's just purely coincidental. So this is how I do it. So today we're going to be showing you the process that I go through of how we get these, which are apples, obviously, how it becomes fermented and turns into this. Very nice, cheers. I won't drink any more on that because it's still the morning. So, we have our equipment already here. Just in front of me here is our scratter. Behind them are some apples. We've got a lot more there. So first we have to collect the apples. Okay, in a minute we're going to put it through this scratching machine, and I'll explain more in a little while. And then I'll go in the press, and it goes into the fermenting bucket here. Now the key thing here is cleanliness is next to godliness or goddessliness, if that's a word. Sterilisation, that's the key thing. That could be the big difference between you making some lovely cider or some equally lovely but not really what you want apple cider vinegar. So here we go. That's all I have to say for now. Join us in a couple of seconds for some scratting. So, after selecting the apples, now if you've got traditional cider making apples, that's fantastic, but I'm not sure if we do have any of those types of trees in this part of the country in Essex. So I just get as many various varieties of apples as I can. Some have been kindly donated, so particular thank you to Kevin Crabb who dropped some over the other day, a load of cookers. Been round the father-in-law's house just yesterday, who's picked us some wondrous English varieties of apples. They're all sort of shapes and sizes. Doesn't really matter, some are battered and bruised, some you wouldn't want to eat, some have got like little holes in. Doesn't really matter. So what we need to do is try and extract that juice. If I put them straight into the juice like this, it wouldn't work. So I need to just scrap them up. I need to macerate them and break them up as much as possible. There's different various ways of doing this. I've got this beautiful Trojan horse that was made by the fantastic father-in-law one day. It has a little plunger and a turny handle and this little chute down into the bucket. Inside here is a little cam with some screws in, and the screw heads are the ones that are going to chew up all those apples, and hopefully you'll see it dropping down the bottom. Turn this handle. Sometimes it gets a bit clogged up. What we're going to try and keep doing is try and do as much as this as possible. Break up all that lovely apple, just so it's in tiny little pieces. You can do it by sort of chopping up and mashing it and hitting. I've got a friend who likes to sort of chop it and smash it with a hammer or a stick, and I think that's probably quite cathartic as well. But I like to do it this way. Okay, so join us for the pressing. Okay, I meant to say earlier that because I'm not using cider apples, what you need to do is get as many various varieties of apples as possible. I'm using about 5, maybe 6, I'm not quite sure. The reason is you're going to get different sort of sweetnesses, acidities as well, so that's very, very important whilst making it. Now, it also doesn't really matter to a certain extent how bad the apple is. Like this one here, and how well you can see, it's got a lovely big bruise on it there. Don't normally worry about it, just fingers in, take that out, chuck that away, all goes in the scratter. But Helen has very kindly been scratching away whilst it's been off the camera. It's a little bit boring for her to continue. I just demonstrated a little bit, but she's been very kind to my back. So, where we're at now, we're at the pressing stage, or juice loosening, or somewhat a friend of mine recently asked me to call it is juicening, which I kind of like. So, we've got a little bit of the apple pulp here. I've already put a lot in as well. So that all goes in just like that. Okay, there's a string bag here as well, which sort of holds everything in place. Just going to push that down like so. Have these two round pieces of wood here, which cunningly fits perfectly into the screw here. So this is a giant screw press here. We have wooden blocks. We have more wooden blocks. We also have this here with a metal plate on, which goes on top. Like so. I think we're slightly on the tilt, but it should right itself off. We have a nylon washer, very important, and the actual screw press thing. So basically this is a piece of metal with a screw up the middle with this little channel around the edge and a little lip in the end, and you can already hear it's already starting to go into the bucket below, the fermenting bucket below. Now, I don't normally add chemicals to anything I do because I've tried to keep it as basic as possible. But this is where I do add a little bit of pectinates. And what this does is, especially for fruit wines, there's a lot of pectin in it, which can make wines and beers and, well, not so much beers, but ciders and wines, fruit-based drinks, like quite hazy. So this helps break down those pectins so it doesn't go as hazy and fuzzy, and it's supposed to help get more juice out for your buck, so that's pretty good. So I am going to do some juicing in now. So we just turn this round and round, and what it's doing is just pushing all that lovely mashed up pieces of apples that we've already done into itself. Hope no one needs a wee. As you can clearly hear, all that lovely stuff is being pushed down. That's all it is. From this stage I'm not going to add anything more. I'm going to be doing much more scratching to fill it up. I'm just going to be pressing this pure apple juice. I mean, you could drink it just like that, it's absolutely delicious. But I like to do it for a much more fun thing, much more fun purpose, and that's to add a bit of yeast later on and turn it into cider. So we've still got a load more scratching and pressing to do, but just so this doesn't drag out forever, which I'm sure will be really, really boring, is what I would normally do at this stage is test its pH. However, I've just got my pH reader out of storage and it's broken. Ideally you want an acidic end of the pH scale, around about 4-ish, 3 to 4, something like that. But I won't know because I haven't got it. So I might buy another one, possibly. I think I probably will, but hey, it's not really important, to be honest, because there ain't much you can do about it, you know, either way. I guess you could add some citric acid to it if you wanted to make it more acidic, and if you needed to make it more alkali, you could add some chalk or something, but forget that bit. Right, so we've got this apple juice into my little tube here, and this is the thing here, I've got a hydrometer, which kind of will give you a bit of a baseline of how strong it will be, but it really depends on how much the sugars brew out. So this is called a hydrometer, and it drops in and it measures the amount of solids, in this case sugars, compared to sort of liquid. So we drop it in there, and it looks like, after it's said about, although it's not quite right, it's about sort of 5.5, something like that. Don't worry what that means. What that means is, at the end of the day, that's going to be round about 6.5, 7%-ish, really depends. But usually with homebrew, it's much, much stronger. As somebody would testament who's tried my stuff, when it's got the Chrissy seal of approval, we know it's good stuff. Now, the final stage, which I won't do yet, is you add a bit of yeast. Now this is just an ale yeast, which I picked up from Wilkinson's because I couldn't find any cider yeast. Not much difference in it. All that will do is you'll just sprinkle that in at the end. You don't need to do anything else, and it will ferment by reacting with the sugars inside it, and that's it. Everything's gone in, all the apples have been pressed, the whole lot's gone in, whatever's in there, maggots, doesn't really matter. Some people used to say chuck a bit of pork in or a dead rat in, that'll help get it going. I've found that's not necessary, but that's it. So from apple over here to cider over here, these are the stages that I go through. As I said, any resemblance to the actual tradition traditional or modern methods of creating cider is purely coincidental, but this is how I do it, and its results aren't too bad. Cheers!
Russell!